Day 11, COVID-19, lockdown South Africa. Day 11 of 21 days. Monday, the 6th of April. Now we've come pretty far, just over 50% of the time that we're supposed to be in lockdown. And there are a few things, issues of concern, and one is the lack of respect for the police and the soldiers in some areas. South Africa, I think we need to cooperate. We really need to. They're doing their best. I read an article yesterday where they said that people are having barbecues on their front lawns and totally disregarding the fact that the Defence Force is asking them to go in. Now, this kind of behavior is not going to do us any well. I think, reality might hit when your loved ones are either on the forefront as soldiers fighting this, and I say soldiers, I mean all essential service workers, or someone dear to you gets infected. So let's put our shoulders to the wheel and let's approach this the way we are expected to approach this as citizens of a country. The other thing that I'm quite delighted about was that there will be prosecution for those who are spreading false news and, all the things that are just going to hamper government's progress in dealing with COVID-19. So that's great. Kudos for whoever came up with that in government. I think that's needed. Because the last thing you need now is paranoia and all these things. That being said, this morning's book, one of my favorites, The Right to Learn. This book was first published in 1985, and the whole aim of this is not to tell you a story, but it's full of debates concerning education in the country. And Paolo Jordan was one of the contributors to this. Excellent contributions in this book, if you can get your hand on it. I'm not sure if it's even in publication anymore. However, they talk about how far the country has come with education and, what the aims are. Now, 1985, remember this was before 1994. So there's a lot of argument in that book. And one of the things that's made very clear is they talk about how education would be the one thing that would level the playing fields. I must give credit that yes, we can go to whichever school we want and whichever university we want. We're not, expected to go on basis of our color anymore. But now with COVID-19 and online learning, do you not think that there's a form of discrimination that's surfacing now between those who have technology and those who don't? Look at it. The playing fields might have been leveled. But in my humble opinion, there are many problems that are going to stem from online learning and things like that. And that's, the reality of COVID-19. I would like to encourage our students, though. Last year we had a top mathematics student who came from a background of inadequate sanitation. And also, it was almost shack dwelling. And his marks were remarkable, absolutely remarkable. So instead of saying, I don't have technology or I'm unable to do that, be that student. Have him as your motivation. If you are upset, or you know somebody who's upset, you're watching this, that person doesn't have the means to watch this, encourage them to be that high-flying student. You can still do it. Go back in history. People did this. Whether they had the greatest facilities or not, they worked hard. They worked smart, hard copy books. It happens. Now for tertiary education, if I were to look at that, online works beautifully. It allows you that freedom to work from wherever you want to, at a pace that you want to, and your interaction is pretty good. Very often with tertiary level, you're just a number interacting with this group. So it does help because by keeping your identity private, you don't feel so inhibited to answer and to cooperate. So yes, it has its advantages for tertiary. But for the primary, definitely not something that I would advocate. Maybe in other countries it's working for you, but also understand that the type of education that you have there, right? And how do you progress your child? When your child has to reach the higher levels, there's essay writing, etc. You cannot teach that online. That has to be done practically and physically. Okay? So we look at the weaknesses, and that's my bigger concern, not the strengths of online teaching, because the weaknesses are really, really critical. No access to the internet. People are having a problem accessing food. How do we expect them to access the internet? Many cases, the local TV stations, the unpaid and unsubscribed channels, have the most beautiful educational programs. All very well if you've got a generator and you've got electricity. If you don't have electricity, what happens? So we go back to the role of significant elders in the home. Parents who are on lockdown and are not on essential services, here's your time to be with your child. It is amazing what you can learn in this time as a parent as well. Don't only look at it as an opportunity for your child to learn. You can learn more about your child and the things that your children are doing at school. It can actually become family activity if you have the means to do that. And I don't mean sitting in your posh air-conditioned lounge and doing it. That's not the family activity I'm talking about. Because in that case, 90% of the time, your child's on his laptop or on whatever, and he's managing. I'm talking about families getting together, limited resources, and when the lights go off at night, they have absolutely no means of studying. Those are the ones that really need to be motivated now. The ones that depend on sunlight so that they can read. The ones that depend on candles, on the little paraffin and gas lamps. Those are the ones that really need this kind of motivation now. And if you know them, I beg of you, please spread this to them. Talk to them about it. Tell them not to give up hope, not to feel this is the end of the world because they're not at school and they're not getting lessons. Teachers in these areas, please, if you can do something, if you can get some messages out to these children, get to those that have the facilities and live close by. We have to respect social distancing, because this also puts us in a very, very difficult shoe. However, I'm sure that when school closed, the students were given their books to take home. And I pray that these books reached home safely so that they can use them. Parents, senior caregivers in the home, you have a right to monitor this. In fact, it's your responsibility because you are at home now and this is lockdown. And unless you're working, there is time, there should be time to do these things. So please cooperate. Together, let's build this. Let's build from this. Let's make this something we can reflect back on in history as a time when we conquered challenges, not a time when the advantage of technology destroyed us. Could we please go in that direction and look at this as a challenge that we can conquer? As I said, for the younger child, not really practical. Get into play. Science can be so enjoyable. It can be such fun teaching science at home. And not in any highfalutin language. A simple thing like how to cook. You teach them how to make fire. You teach them how the fire happens. And, the time and how by oxygen supporting combustion, when you provide a wind on that fire, the fire comes up. It's all that kind of thing, right? Carbon dioxide, extinguishing it, you take something, you cover the fire. Simple ways of teaching science, teaching lots of things. You can teach basic accounting, absolutely basic accounting. Sit and decide now we've had just an X number of money and how have we managed with it and how do we cope and what are we left with, what's our debits, what's our credits. So there's possibilities. Simplicity is what I beg you for. I'd like to end with the saying by Swami Vivekananda. And he says, arise, awake, and stop not till that goal is reached. Much love, blessings, and until we meet again, may God forever hold you in the palm of his hands. God bless you.